Okay, just bear with me a second because let me go across to my colleague Jessica Taneja, who was listening into that press conference that Justin Trudeau has addressed. Jessica, what are the key points that emerged? She's apparently said that he intends to step down, but not immediately, and even Parliament will not be able to convene for some time till almost the end of March.
That's correct, almost till end of March, and elections were due to be held in October earlier, Gautam, but all of those plans have now changed with Justin Trudeau with that press conference much awaited. He now says he's stepping down as Prime Minister and he will wait till the next one is elected. So very important press interaction today, and a very different, one that too, where he says that it's over dinner that he told his kids about the decision to resign, with talking about all of the work that he's done in the last 9 years. But it's important to also understand what led to his resignation. While there was pressure and on him when there was, of course, not much support for him, not just within his own allies, but his own, cabinet ministers as well, including particularly of his deputy prime minister and finance minister, Chrystia Freeland. Now, this came at a point where she resigned at the time, right before announcing the fiscal budget, and instead she tendered a resignation and said that she could not continue with the economic policies that Justin Trudeau had been introducing quite recently.
Because Trudeau wanted to demote her.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that, Gautam.
I said that happened because Trudeau said that he wants to demote her, he wants to give her some other responsibility.
That's also correct, but also from the point of view on how things have built at this point, and reports suggesting on the fact that there were very important and controversial policies that Justin Trudeau had recently introduced, specifically talking about the two, where there was a 2-month tax holiday and the tax rebate of nearly $200, and those handouts were given to workers, was not taken well by Chrystia Freeland, who seemed to have tendered her resignation on those points. So that is what we know from the reports so far. And perhaps moving forward, there were many more things that the Justin Trudeau government was facing. It's not just how unpopular he was becoming, but also the cost of living crisis and the inflation, and perhaps many individuals not being able to afford electricity and housing becoming even more expensive. Certainly concerns that were not being addressed for a very long time by the Trudeau government, which was anyway unpopular.
Yes, let me bring in Professor Harshvardhan Pant again, because Justin Trudeau said that he will step down once his replacement is found, which will again take some time, and in that time even Parliament will not be able to convene before March, and that means a no confidence vote or a confidence vote cannot be sought before May. So it does seem that he's at the same time bought time for his party ahead of the elections, which are to be held at the latest in October, Professor Pant.
Yes, I think the numbers for the party are looking pretty bad at the moment, and the longer he stays, the more difficult it would be for them to sustain the seats. And I think that was one of the reasons why the MPs were under pressure and were asking him to go. But I think this whole process of finding an alternative, finding a leader of the party in the Prime Minister, that will take its own time, and he has I think carefully indicated that he's willing to hand over the baton to the next leader. But how that what happens to that process and what role he plays there would also be very interestingly watched, because he's of course not very popular across the board, but he retains a measure of support within his own party. So whether the successor would be someone who will be completely anti-Trudeau or someone who also resembles in some ways his policies, that would be very interesting to watch. But I think the wind is shifting against him and his policies, and we will certainly see anyone who comes to fill his shoes taking positions which will be strikingly different from his, because any association with him is today a political kiss of death for Canadian leaders. So I do think that it's a very precarious moment for the Liberals and for his party. But I think it's also an interesting moment in that sense for Canadian politics, because it would be evolving and it would be moving in a very different direction from here on.
Yes, it could be, considering especially the fact that you have an administration coming in just next door, which is saying that I'm going to put tariffs on every Canadian good of 25%, and more than 70% of Canadian exports go to the US. It's a biggest trading partner. So that's a huge sword hanging over every Canadian's head. And at that time, for Justin Trudeau to lose sort of a mandate of taking the country further, although still being in office, what kind of a limbo does that put Canada in with the US, with Donald Trump?
I think that's a very difficult situation, because you'd certainly need, with Mr. Trump in particular, you need a leader who has the confidence of his own people. And at this point, especially now going over into the next few months, if he continues, which is likely given the political process that will unfold in Canada, I think his ability to negotiate will be very weak, and we have already seen how Mr. Trump dealt with him when he went there. And so I do think that Mr. Trump's political favorite is the opposition, and certainly he is not in any mood to relent under the Liberal leadership. So I think the dynamic between Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Trump, which has been antagonistic, which has been very strange in particular, if you go by the last visit, I think is going to be even stranger now. And this is not good news for Canada. It's not good news for US-Canada relations, and in particular on the issue of tariffs and trade, which is likely to hurt every single Canadian. And I think a lot of the points that Jessica was mentioning, economy, cost of living, how do you make sure that employment, housing, all of them are interrelated in that sense, and it would be very difficult for the Canadian government to deal with them with a weak prime minister, with the prime minister that has basically said, I'm lame duck, and that is what the problem is going to be.
Well, we'll have to see what the opposition leader and the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has to say about it as well. But let's listen to what Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau has said just a short while ago, while he announced that he intends to step down. Listen in.
I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
So there you have it. That's a word for now, and we are running out of time. So I'll have to thank you, Jessica, as well as Professor Pant, for the moment, and see what really emerges for Canada going forward, because he's clearly said that he's going to stick around till a new leader is found in his place, and that in itself sounds odd, that because until one really quits, how can one be replaced? But that's the way things stand at the moment in Canada.